Okay. I'm going to start with a question, and it's this. How big are your dreams? I know I'm funny, but not that funny. How big are your dreams? I would imagine everyone's going to answer that in a different way. Or maybe you're going to answer it, you're going to say, oh, my dreams are really big, but you're not going to really look to see. So I want you to really look to see today. How big are your dreams? You know, Ali just sang a song about visualization. Visualize it, see it. See your life. See what it is you want to create. So then my next question is, how big are your visualizations? We all have an idea of how big our lives are. We all have an idea in our mind of what our lives look like now and what we want them to look like. But what's the ceiling on that for you? How big are they? How infinitely enormous are your dreams, and how big is the way you visualize it? How much of your divine imagination do you use when it comes to your life? How much of your imagination do you unleash when it comes to you creating your life? I mean, come on, we study a science that says you create your life. You don't just fall upon it or happen upon it. You create your experience. You create your relationship to everything in your life is yours to create. So, how much of your imagination have you invested in making your life what you wish it to be? Ernest Holmes said this, true imagination is not fanciful daydreaming. It is fire from heaven. Doesn't that do something to you? Doesn't look like it. I feel like I'm looking at a portrait. True imagination is not fanciful daydreaming. It is fire from heaven. So how much... You know what? Sorry, too little, too late. So how much fire from heaven do you have inside of you? And here's my bigger question. How much of what has happened so far in your life has stopped you from finding that fire from heaven you were born with? How much of the conditional world that you come from stops you from living, as Ernest Holmes said, the fire in your belly? Or have that fire in your belly been doused somehow? These are really important questions. True imagination is not fanciful daydreaming. It is fire from heaven. And here's the great news today. This is the great news today. That fire from heaven is still there inside each and every one of us. It can never, ever be doused. It can never, ever be, what's that called when you put it out? Distinguished, thank you. Oh, I'm distinguished. Extinguished, got it. So, it can never be put out. So I'm just here today to remind you that it's there and to get you to get off your seat and do something about it. Do something with it. Do you know what the difference between, he says, the imagination is not a fanciful daydreaming, it is a fire from heaven. Do you know what the difference is between daydreaming and fire from heaven? The difference between daydreaming and your imagination, your divine imagination, do you know what the difference is? Belief. That's all. That's the only difference. You may believe that your daydream is actually real, and it may not be. It may just be a hope or a wish or a sort of an illusion. But your imagination, if you had full belief, 100% belief in your ability to tap into your divine imagination and unleash it as you would unleash the fire from heaven, if you had full belief about that, don't you think you would use it? Just unabashedly, just use it? If you absolutely believe that as you used it, it would make exactly what you asked it to make? That's what we're here to talk about today. So Ernest Holmes says that the fire from heaven is you. You are the fire from heaven. And that's this whole thing about getting in tune, in touch with who you truly are. I think we still believe that we are here to use God's fire from heaven, as opposed to allow the fire from heaven to use us, to just let it move through us. And when I talk about conditions in life, I'm talking about all the things that we focus our attention on that stops us from actually hearing and feeling and knowing that fire from heaven. Whatever it is that stops us from actually tapping into it. So we are that fire, the great visualization, blazing in each one of our minds. The big dream is a reality because it's already there. And here's the deal. When I ask you how big is your dream, whatever size dream you have, it already exists in the mind of God. And if it exists in the mind of God, that means it exists in the mind of you and in the mind of me, because I am the mind of God and you are the mind of God. There is only one mind. There is only one God. We're all a part of it. So, if my dream already exists, my next question has to be, why am I possibly keeping it contained? Does anybody here feel like maybe their dream is just a little bit contained? Or maybe their dream could be a little bit bigger? I bet everybody here. Does everybody believe their dream could be a little bit bigger? We all think that, right? So who made it little? Think about that. Who made it small? You did. I did. Whenever anybody says to me, I live on a fixed income, I'm always like, who fixed it? And I gotta owe that one up to Dr. Walker. Because I heard him say it one day on a Sunday. Somebody had brought up the idea of, he had a Q&A, and somebody said, what happens if you lived on a fixed income? And he just went, who fixed it? He said it a lot harsher than I did. No, but he did. He was like, who fixed it, Blanche? Yeah. Because everybody was Blanche to Dr. Walker. Who fixed it? So what a brilliant moment that was for me. I was like, oh my God, he's so right. Every single thing in my life I have put in its container. And I'd like to live a container-free existence, wouldn't you? Yes. And that's who we are. That's the fire of heaven. That's the fire in my belly. It is container-free. It is a wildfire. It is just doing its thing. And I'm here to allow it to do so. Thomas Troward said, and then Ernest Holmes reiterated it, he said, we never create anything. We merely reveal it. For everything already exists in the mind of God, which means that it's in my mind. I just have to reveal it. Visualization, I love your song, I do. Visualization can only happen in the mind of the one who is visualizing. Now I know it's like, duh, really? Visualization can only happen in the mind of the one who's visualizing, which would mean every single person in this room is capable of visualizing, but only to the degree that they have a belief behind it. So Barbara Altman may visualize very differently than her husband, Gary Altman. And yet they may have the same exact dream, but they may visualize it differently depending on where each one of them is. And that goes for every single person in this room. You can only visualize the life you wish to experience at the level of the belief you have about that life. So your job is to have a belief that is so enormous, so expansive, that every single thing you visualize reaches the height of that truth. And that truth backs itself into who you are. So my next question to you really is, do you know how big you are? Do you really, truly know how big you are? Do you really, truly feel when you walk this planet that as you walk through your life, you are walking through life as the allness of life, not just as that single individual trudging through life? Making it through today. How you doing? I'm hanging in there. And I always say, let go. Because if you're just hanging in there, really let go and see what happens. Because who wants to just hang around? I'd like to be part of this enormous energy that just keeps growing. So, how big are you? Do you know how big you are? And that's really what I'm here to tell you today. I'm here to look you all right in the face and tell you how big you are. Ernest Holmes wrote this. I love this. Not failure, but low aim is a crime. That's a new quote from me from Ernest Holmes. I don't know how I found it, but I found it. It's not failure that screws us up. It's aiming so low that we succeed. And then being content with our success and just going through life on the low end of the totem pole. But that's not what we're here to be, is it? It's not who I'm here to be. It's not who you're here to be. So the size of what you're willing to visualize really depends on the size of your beliefs. So I have a question for you. What are you preparing to experience in your life right now? No, I've been living for the last 4, 5, 6 months with Rita Andriello, watching her as she prepared to live something. You know, and I spoke to her yesterday. Was it yesterday or Friday? And she was just going on and on about, oh my God, where she lived and the forest and the beach and all these people that she was meeting and blah blah. She said, and at one point I just stopped her and I went, "You do realize you've only been there one day?" And she was like, "I know. I can't even imagine what this is going to turn into." Okay, so there's an example of. What are you prepared to experience in your life? I can tell you, Reverend Rita and Reverend Patrick are prepared to experience nirvana in Hawaii. They really are. And you know what? They're going to get it. Because guess what? They brought it to Hawaii. And that's the deal, isn't it? Reverend Jonathan in Toronto, same story. I was here when Jonathan got the job, and I watched him prepare for who knew what. And he now, first of all, he talks like a Torontan. Is that a word, Torontan? A Torontoan, a towhead. He talks, but he's always like, you know, James, it's my process. I'm like, Jonathan, it's process. He says, no, in Canada, it's process. So he has experienced this amazing transformation where he has let his experience, he's let the divine in him take him to this experience, and he is now that experience. Now, here's the deal. Every single one of us chooses an experience and becomes that experience. What are you choosing? Which experience are you choosing in life? Because it's all about choice. Ernest Holmes wrote this. He said, prepare your mind to receive the best life has to offer. Prepare your mind to receive the best life has to offer. How do you do that? How do you prepare your mind to receive the best life has to offer? First of all, what is the best life has to offer? Probably different for all of us, yes? The best life has to offer for one person, for another person could be a nightmare. Oh, I just don't want to do that. So what is your best life has to offer? There's a big question, isn't it? What is it to you? What experience of life to you is the best life has to offer? I mean, I'm very excited that this time next week, what time is it right now? 11, 12, 1, 2. We will be preparing to go to the Tony Awards. I have never been to the Tony Awards in all my years. And here's the great part of this. I always assumed I'd have a bunch of them by now. I did. I really did. But I know that I didn't have the belief to back it up. I had the talent, and I still do, and you never know. Right? So, I can see it. A nomination for Best Play, Sissy Boy. With that S prominent, Sissy Boy. You just never know. I have the producer, why not? Right? So, here we are, 58 years old. I get to go to the Tony Awards for the first time. For the first time. And why am I going? To celebrate this man. To be there to support what he has done. And I have watched him experience this desire to be creative, and I watched him anticipate from city to city to city where he was going to take this show, and watched that show also take him, and watched him literally be what that show ended up becoming. And it's spectacular. He's my great, great example of this teaching, of how it works. How big is your picture? Holland Taylor started sitting at a little table in Theater 2, wondering, do I have anything here? And she is now one of 4 celebrated actresses up for Best Actress in the Play for the Tony Awards. And I want to say this publicly, this man here made it all happen. And the good news is I can say that because Holland Taylor says that. They all say it. And that's my question to you. How big is big? And you know what? the Tony Awards. Should that be as big as I would imagine? Absolutely not. There's the Oscars. How big? I mean, really. And it's not all about awards, is it? Yes, it is. So, it's not about it's about the work. And here's the work. It's about, are you able to let God move through you because it's who you are? Or are you in a tug of war between God and man, where you seem to think they are separate? Because they are not. And to the degree that we understand this oneness, that right where I am, God is, to that degree does my picture get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. My dreams get bigger and bigger and bigger. The possibilities get bigger and bigger and bigger and more expansive. I grow this. There's a great line in Troward. As I grow my God, I grow myself. The more God I can become, the more God can be let out. And then the answer to all these questions stop being subjective, and they become what they really are. How big is your dream? Infinite, enormous, unlimited. There's no end to my dream. How big is your visualization? It's so big I can't even visualize it. I just trust it. How about that? I just trust it. So in your lyrics, there's no need to settle for less. Line jumps right out at me. There's no need to settle for less. I've got to just keep believing. I got to see what I want in my life. I got to just keep listening. So the title of my talk today is Pandora. Now, Pandora actually means this. I know we all know about Pandora and Pandora's box and all that stuff. Pandora actually means all giving, all gifted. Did you know that? Nor did I. All giving, all gifted, Pandora. Now, Pandora's box is a metaphor for all the evil in the world. Things we should just leave be. How many people feel that they know what that box is? There's a box. In fact, somebody said to me recently, actually Sharon Earl, Reverend Sharon Earl, she said to me, there was something that came up, and she said, I bet you don't want to open that box, do you? And I said, no, actually, I need to open that box because there should never be a box. And that's the thing about Pandora's box. I think many of us still believe, and when I talk about being boxed in, we're boxed in because we're afraid. We're afraid of what might be unleashed or what might be out there. We keep our boundaries tight. And yet, there's no such thing as Pandora's box. There's no such thing as evil. There's no such thing as all this stuff that we're afraid of. There's not really, not as the mind of God. It just isn't there. So, Pandora is also, in contemporary world, a personalized radio station that plays the music you love. How many of you have Pandora on your iPhones? Okay, the rest of you, get it. My son put it on mine. Because he said, Dad, you should have Pandora. I was like, oh, no, I don't do the Pandora thing. He said, it's a radio station. And so he put it on my phone, and I've been listening to it ever since. So it's a personalized radio station. What it is, you tell it what you want to hear, and it gives you selections based on your input. Sound like anything else in life? Think about that. So here's a funny story. So I was at the gym this week working out with Mr. Morrissey, and I had the headphones on for some reason. I was listening to Pandora because we were doing separate workouts. Bob has grown past me. So I was doing some working out, but the whole time I'm thinking about this issue I have, and I'm like, this issue in my life, and I wasn't sure, what do I want to do here? Do I want to do this? Do I want to do that? Should I go there? Should I go there? And I decided I hadn't been listening to Pandora, but I had my headphones in. I said, I'm just going to turn it on, and whatever song comes up first is going to inform me. That's dangerous. But I thought, whatever song comes up is going to inform me. So I turn it on. Now, I knew that I had told Pandora to only give me inspirational music. But Pandora's idea of inspiration and mine are a little different. But they're always exciting. So I turn it on, and I'm struggling in my mind going, should I deal with this? Should I not deal with this? Should I tell this person what I think? Should I not tell this person what I think? What should I do? What should I do? What should I do? And I turn it on, and I hear, when I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom. I run over to Bob, didn't I, Bob? And I went, oh my God! Pandora just told me to just let it be. So, did you hear what he said? I was much butcher when I said that. Well, I was at the gym. I said, Bob. Yeah. So, I had a counseling session this week, and the woman at the end of the counseling session, she said, I just have to ask you, are you gay or straight? Because I can't figure it out. Oh, really? Somebody just went, oh. I said, well, I'm gay, but I'm also straight. I happen to be married to a man, but that's, I don't ever like to box. I will not box myself in. I will not stand here and say I am a gay minister. You can say it all you like. But I will not box myself in. And that's really what I'm here to talk about today. My sexuality. So the question really is, I know, it's getting hot in here, isn't it? Whew. So, the question really is, okay, we started with me asking you, how big are your dreams? Right? The question is, what stops people, what stops us from letting it be? And here's what I'm asking about letting it be. So when I listened to that song and I heard, I listened to the whole John Lennon song, let it be, let it be, let it go. Let it be what it needs to be through you. Don't control it. Anyone else here have some controlling issues? I mean, I don't, but I'm sure you do. And I want to control it. I want to make it what I want it to be. And yet, there is something inside of us at all times. Pandora is just sending it through, saying, let it be. And when it says, let it be, Ernest Holmes calls God the thing itself. Let it be. Let God be. Let God be what God bees. And that means unlimited, infinite purpose and power. That's who and what we are. So you know what it is that gets in our way? Fear of the unknown. That's the issue, fear of the unknown. We're afraid of that Pandora's box. And we say to ourselves, don't open the box. We're afraid to open the box. We're afraid that if we open the box, something's going to pop out that we won't know what to do with. We won't know how to handle. And I'm here to tell you that your dreams should defy that box. You should have no fear. If a dream comes to you, it's come to you because you're the one with the dream. You're the one that dream has to come through. I look at John Livesey as I see this because I've watched this man go from career height to career height. And just when you think he's at a career height, something happens and he zooms into outer space and you can't find him. And every single one of us has the capacity to live life that way. That's what living life to the fullest means. Don't dream that dream. Don't dream that dream because you're afraid that something's going to stop it. Don't fear going where no man has ever gone because no man has ever gone. That's our job. That is our job as spiritual scientists. So, the evolution of Pandora is pretty fascinating if you think about it. Pandora was actually considered the first, in Greek mythology, Pandora was the first woman. We think it's Eve, but if you go to Greek mythology, you go before the Old Testament. Pandora was a Greek mythological figure of the first woman, but not woman as in the sex woman, the first creative being, the being from which all things came. That's what Pandora was considered, the first vessel of all things. And then we went from that to Pandora's box and the fear and don't open it, all the way up to, here we are in contemporary time, Pandora is now something that we instruct to give us exactly what it is we want. How fascinating is that? The divine evolution of an idea. So, I think we still have a lot of ideas. I think we still have a lot of ideas about how big our dreams are allowed to be. I think we have a lot of ideas about how far we're allowed to go. I think we have a lot of ideas about what's appropriate and what's inappropriate. And I think it's time to break all those boxes apart and recycle them and just get rid of them. Get out of whatever box you've put yourself in. Get out of that box and start not only living life to the fullest, but living yourself to the fullest. And that's really where this show I'm writing comes into play. Do you know why I haven't finished this show, Sissy Boy? It's because I kept feeling that as a minister, there are certain things I shouldn't get up and share. And I've decided that that's just completely wrong. And I have decided to go where probably no minister has ever gone. Because it's a big dream of mine to get up and tell my story, and it's a story most of you haven't heard in this way. So I just want you to know that when I get up and talk on a Sunday, I'm mostly talking to myself. I really am. I become aware of certain things in life, like there's a box that we're all still living in, and it's time to really break free from whatever walls are still there. That there's still an idea that there may be something bigger than me, an idea that's too big for me, a career that's out of my reach, a financial place in this world that is just not possible. And none of that's true. And all of that's true, depending on what you decide about it. So I'm here today to ask you again at the end of this talk, how big are your dreams? How big can you visualize your life becoming? Are they big enough? Are they made from the fire of heaven? Or are they made from conditions that are telling you limitations? You want to know what I see? I see God in every single person in this room. I see pure, untarnished potentiality in every single face in this room. I see the possibility of whatever it is you decide to do with your life manifesting perfectly, with no limitations. Because I see that right where you sit, God is just asking you to release the fire from heaven. Are you ready to release it? Yes. Are you ready to release it? Yes. Are you ready right now? Yes. Do you know who you are? Yes. Who are you? God. I am God. And so it is. Here we go. Thank you.